essere innanzitutto credibili, performanti, precisi.
Ma che ci ho portato porta, sicuro che ti comporta.
Manca la Livorno che sai raccontare stasera che...
Take me to church, I worship like a dog.
Basta! Vai.
Basta! Basta!
Basta!
Basta!
Basta!
Basta!
Questa la faccio nei bambini.
Dà una fotografia perfetta, un'istantanea, di un'emotività.
Performance is for the audience, but it's also he's having fun.
La sua performance, sì, è fatto per il pubblico, ma lui si sta divertendo, lo sta facendo anche per sé.
Catti coi colori e rincorrere gli amici su una macchina a gettoni.
Allora, prima barra, seconda barra, terza barra, quarta barra, ricomincia.
I just wanna send you somewhere I find. I know it's hard sometimes. Pieces of pieces of pieces of mine. I know it's hard.
E facciamo questa intervista, partiamo con le domande, prego. Boia.
È stata un'esperienza fantastica, mi ha fatto crescere sia dal punto di vista artistico che personale.
Mi ho divertito, ho conosciuto tantissima gente.
Tu passi in un'aula, non c'è nessuno che non suona, non canta.
È come stare in un, non lo so, un paradiso per musicisti proprio, quindi è stato meraviglioso.
Absolutely amazing.
Esperienza formativa a 360 gradi.
Ho trovato la mia dimensione, insomma.
Bellissimo, lo consiglio a tutti.
Non mi aspettavo assolutamente di ricevere così tanto in così pochi giorni.
Soprattutto con persone del mestiere come produttori, cantautori come me.
Hi everyone, my name is Cara Diaguardi and I'm a songwriter, record producer, music publisher, and a former judge on American Idol. I also have the honor of being the president of the European Judging Panel for Tour Music Fest since 2019. 2020 was truly a difficult year for all those whose reason for living is music. Tour Music Fest is finally back in the game with a brand new format. So it's the start of a new adventure, and that's why I want to wish good luck to the whole Tour Music Fest team and all of those artists who will be finally able to get back to living and breathing their music. It's time to get back to the music, and I can't wait to see you in action. See you at the European final. Tour Music Fest, we love your music.
che c'è qualche problema. Mi riuscite a vedere? Vediamo anche dei commenti, che cosa dicono. Sì, mi sembra che adesso sia risolto. Io sono Gianluca Musso, direttore del Tour Music Fest, e oggi tocca a me aprire questo grande evento speciale solo per pochi minuti, perché poi avremo con noi, come sapete, dei grandissimi docenti e una grandissima organizzazione come quella di Berklee. Siamo finalmente tornati dopo una breve pausa estiva, e adesso al Tour Music Fest ci aspettano 2 mesi pieni zeppi di eventi, di live audition, di camp, con il band contest, il DJ contest, e ovviamente con i City Music Camp e le puntate di TMF Live, il nostro social format che, oltre a tenervi informati su tutto quello che accade all'interno del Tour Music Fest, offre ovviamente dei momenti di crescita e di formazione totalmente in linea con la mission del Tour Music Fest. Gli artisti e i nostri fan che ci stanno seguendo in questo momento, ovviamente li ringraziamo di cuore. Alcuni di loro li abbiamo già visti durante le prime tappe di Firenze e Bologna, quindi ciao a tutti e ben ritrovati. Gli altri invece li incontreremo nelle prossime tappe, ma oggi addirittura è un evento aperto non solo ai partecipanti del Tour Music Fest, ma a tutti i fan, tutti coloro che ci seguono ormai da 15 anni, quindi il saluto ovviamente è per tutti. Oggi vi aspetta, come vi abbiamo anche inviato tramite mail, un grande regalo perché le masterclass che saranno protagoniste oggi di questa puntata di TMF Live sono veramente interessanti e con docenti veramente incredibili. Quello che vi chiedo in questo momento, ovviamente, oltre a nuovamente ringraziarvi per essere qui con noi, è di condividere questa diretta tramite la vostra piattaforma social. Vi ricordo che siamo su Facebook, in diretta su Facebook, su YouTube e su Twitch, quindi condividete, mettete un like a questa diretta e magari anche una scarica di cuori, perché li abbiamo sostituiti con gli applausi, visto che quest'anno dal vivo con Berklee era un po' più complicato rispetto al solito. Abbiamo deciso questa nuova modalità, perciò i vostri applausi, mi raccomando, fateci arrivare un po' di cuori, così ci riscaldano. Il mese scorso, come ho detto, abbiamo iniziato con le tappe di Firenze e Bologna. Noi del team del Tour Music Fest siamo veramente soddisfatti, perché ovviamente dopo 2 anni di stop tornare all'opera, incontrare nuovamente tutti e riprendere la nostra attività è stato davvero emozionante. E il Tour Music Fest quest'anno, come sapete, ha una nuova formula e siamo molto contenti, insomma, che tutto questo sia piaciuto e che abbia reso possibile in questo momento, diciamo pure drammatico per la musica live. Siamo veramente contenti che con il Tour Music Fest siamo riusciti quantomeno a dare il via alle esibizioni, alle performance dei nostri artisti. Il nostro team ovviamente in questo momento sta lavorando moltissimo, perché i prossimi 2 mesi che ci attendono sono veramente infuocati, ma non vediamo l'ora di conoscere gli artisti che conosceremo proprio nei prossimi giorni. Infatti saremo a Torino, Genova e Milano nei prossimi 15 giorni, quindi salutiamo anche loro, perché tra poco ci vedremo con le nostre attività. Detto questo, adesso che siamo tornati dopo l'estate, possiamo finalmente iniziare questo pomeriggio di formazione. Vedo che siamo 1061 persone collegate sulle 3 piattaforme. Ovviamente questo ci fa molto piacere, significa che agli artisti italiani interessa la formazione, soprattutto quella di qualità, e questo è sicuramente un ottimo segno. Ma veniamo a quello che succederà tra poco sugli schermi del TMF. Avremo l'onore di avere con noi coach di livello internazionale, i docenti di Berklee College. Saremo in compagnia di Cindy Scott, Rodney Alejandro e Jason Stokes, che oltre a essere dei coach fantastici di livello internazionale sono anche dei grandi artisti, e nella loro carriera hanno collaborato con le glorie della musica internazionale. Prendiamo Pink, Stevie Wonder, Diana Ross, Mariah Carey, gli Outcast, insomma hanno conosciuto la musica che noi conosciamo praticamente da sempre, e sarà sicuramente interessante ascoltare le loro parole. Tutto questo grazie alla partnership che il Tour Music Fest ha stabilito e ha siglato con Berklee College of Music. Vi ricordo, Berklee è la più grande, con sede a Boston, è la più grande università di musica al mondo, da dove praticamente è uscita fuori mezza musica mondiale. I loro artisti, e ora anche ovviamente i loro coach hanno vinto un sacco di premi, dall'Oscar al Grammy e così via. È una realtà di livello mondiale, opera in tutto il mondo e quindi sicuramente di livello internazionale. Ringrazio ovviamente Berklee per il supporto che ha dato al Tour Music Fest, e noi portiamo avanti questa partnership con grande entusiasmo dal 2018. Tour Music Fest da 15 anni praticamente ormai, peccato che un anno siamo dovuti stare fermi e già sapete per cosa. Da 15 anni offriamo non solo la partecipazione a un contest, perché ci è sempre sembrato riduttivo. Quello che vogliamo offrire agli artisti, oltre alla partecipazione al contest, sono le esperienze formative di confronto con gli artisti che la musica la fanno per davvero, e oggi è uno di questi appuntamenti. Io tra poco lascerò la parola a Nadia Stacchini, che è la responsabile delle partnership internazionali del Tour Music Fest, e a Jason Camiglio e Betsy Baker, che ringrazio tantissimo, di Berklee College of Music, che ringrazio tantissimo per il lavoro svolto in questi ultimi mesi per produrre tutto quello che state vedendo oggi. Ricordo che questo è soltanto il primo di diversi appuntamenti che ci saranno nei prossimi mesi. Il secondo appuntamento sarà domani alle ore 21 sulla piattaforma Zoom per un approfondimento delle nostre masterclass, e l'appuntamento successivo di domani sarà aperto a tutti coloro che partecipano attivamente al Tour Music Fest di quest'anno. Ma bando alle ciance, l'ultimo consiglio che vi do prima di lasciarvi, ovviamente per seguire al meglio queste masterclass, vi ricordo che i docenti di Berklee sono docenti internazionali, americani, alcuni di loro in questo momento si stanno collegando addirittura dal Messico, quindi si parlerà in inglese. Ora, per chi mastica l'inglese non c'è nessun problema, se per coloro invece che hanno un po' di difficoltà nel comprendere magari la lingua inglese, vi consiglio di attivare i sottotitoli automatici di Facebook e YouTube, che automaticamente faranno una traduzione. È ovvio, la traduzione automatica non sarà perfetta, però sicuramente vi darà una mano per poter seguire al meglio queste lezioni. Non devo dirvi altro, penso di aver detto tutto. Vi auguro 2 meravigliose ore di crescita e di confronto con i nostri coach di Berklee College of Music. Vi auguro buona masterclass. Ricordatevi, Tour Music Fest, we love your music.
Togli tutto il tuo.
Hi there.
Hello.
It's great to see you. Thank you for having us.
Oh, well, thank you for being here. I mean, it's such an honor, and it's been quite a ride. Good morning to everyone. Good afternoon to others. We're just so excited, so grateful for this unique and special partnership that we have with Berklee. It did take us years to find the right one. But we needed someone who really understood what we really desired to offer our Tour Music Fest artists, and we couldn't have found anyone better. I wanted to quickly thank you, Jason Camilio, for everything. We've been through so much in the past few years. Jason is Assistant Vice President for Global Initiatives. Betsy Becker, Assistant Vice President for Global Program Development. You've been amazing with everything you've done for us, along with Maria Goldberg, Senior Director of Global Strategy. And it's such an honor to have Cindy with us online already. It's great to have you. And Cindy's in Mexico. So we're in Italy.
This is a truly global hang.
Jason's in Boston. Betsy, where are you?
I'm in New York.
Oh, you're in New York.
So we're totally global right now.
Yeah,
global.
it's happening.
Absolutely.
Well, Nadia, you and Gianluca and Tour Music Fest are a world-class organization. The work that you do with all of your incredible artists for these amazing musicians is top-notch. And we are truly honored and privileged to have the opportunity to engage and collaborate and just see what happens to these musicians as they go through your programming, your mentoring, your coaching, and the results, the growth that you see is really outstanding. And for those of you that have had the opportunity to go to the camps, to be part of the competition, to participate in the finals, it's beautiful. And the level of musicianship is top notch. And we get to see, these incredible musicians then come to the Berklee summer programs and apply to Berklee as well. And we're here
because education, is fundamental. It just is.
Right. So this is truly, truly cool to see. And what we're developing and what we're going to deliver with you over the next few weeks with these remote engagements. And, folks, ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you're healthy. We hope that your families are all doing well. We miss being with you in person, but we know we're going to be back with you in person soon. So just take care, keep working on your music. But what we're going to do remotely is just going to be awesome because we've got this incredible team with Cindy and Rodney and Jason, and Michelle Mungo is going to be joining us later on. These are sessions that you want to attend. I know you're going to be video recording them as well, so people can go back and check them out again later.
Definitely.
So this is like totally amazing work we're going to be doing. Yeah.
So I'm so excited. I mean, today we're starting off with 3 amazing teasers, as we'd like to call them, because this is just a little taste of what Berklee is offering our artists this year, and I couldn't have thought of 3 better amazing artists than the ones that are with us today, and I think you're all gonna have a ball. I'm here to help you a little bit. Right. I'm seeing a few comments, vedi commenti che I sottotitoli non vanno in italiano, e io sarò comunque qui per darvi una mano durante le sessioni di domande e risposte che ci saranno durante ogni puntata di oggi, e quindi per qualsiasi cosa sono qui, scrivete e vi risponderò. So I was just saying that I'll be there to answer their questions. Some subtitles aren't going into Italian, only into English, but I'm here for them, so if they need anything. And obviously, Cindy, I'm here during your session. Yay. So I'll be hiding, but if you need me, I'll pop in. Betsy, it's always a pleasure. You're always here with us. You're always there.
I'm also going to take myself, I don't want to distract from it, so I'm going to take myself off camera and leave it to Jason and Cindy.
Okay. So
nice to see you, Betsy.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason. I'll see you later. Cindy, have a great time. And Betsy, I'll see you soon.
Frozen.
Cool. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've got an amazing group of artist educators here to work with you today and then over the next few weeks. And starting off with, a professor in the voice department at Berklee. She's a world traveler as an artist educator. Just the kind of passion and energy she brings to her performances is world class. And she brings that same passion and energy to her teaching, whether it's with students one-on-one or in groups. She's worked with amazing artists, Mark Murphy, Karen Allison, Rosanna Vitro, Randy Porter, Ellis Marsalis, and many, many, many more. Cindy, we've had you go out and represent Berklee at our different programs around the world, and obviously we want you to do more and more of that. Here we've got you virtually, remotely, and it's so wonderful to have you here. You've performed at world-class festivals, the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, North Sea Jazz Festival, the top of the top venues for audiences around the globe. And you're bringing incredible expertise and experience to this community. So thank you for being here with us.
It's a great honor to be here. I'm really excited to see all these students and to watch them evolve and blossom. And if I could do anything to help that just really is enriching to my own self. So I'm excited.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for joining from Mexico. Ladies and gentlemen, we're on our break at Berklee between our summer and fall semester. We're going to be back on campus together.
No, it's been since March 2020.
Right. So it's great that you're getting a little time away from, Boston and all of that. But thank you for being here. And I'm going to turn it over to you so you can jump in and, begin to share all of your wisdom with us.
Fantastic. So I just want to say one thing to the people that are paying attention. I'm going to ask several questions throughout this next few minutes, and I would like for you to just respond in the Facebook chat because I can't survey you and have you raise your hand. It will help me present what you guys want going forward for the next 2 sessions. I just want to get to know you more. I think that's more enriching for both of us. So when I ask a question, just put your answer in the chat on Facebook, and I will, or in the chat, and I will go back and survey all those answers. And you can answer in English or in Italian or in German or whatever makes you happy. I'll figure it out. Okay. So my name, as they said, was Cindy Scott, and it is clearly on the screen for you all to see. Where can I? Nope, I can't do it. I need a pointer. And I have been singing professionally for a long time. And in the beginning, it was just because I loved it. I just had to sing. I came up in a musical family, and I was an instrumentalist first. I grew up playing flute. I still play flute, but more than that, I'm a vocalist. And I actually had a corporate job for a long time. I was about 10 years working for big companies, big multinational companies. And at some point, I decided that I had to switch gears and really build my life around music. And that's the best decision I ever made. I am so happy to have built my life around music. And I was working in New Orleans. I lived in New Orleans for many, many years. And I'm a jazz singer primarily, but that doesn't keep me from connecting with all other kinds of music and helping my students be whoever they need to be. But I was working, and I was impatiently trying to develop as an artist, and I got to the point where I didn't have enough time. So I went back to school and got a Master of Music at the University of New Orleans. And when I came out of that program, people were starting to ask me to teach them privately. And I did that, and it didn't take me long to realize that I wasn't good enough. I was not a good enough teacher. I did not know what I was doing. And so I went and learned vocal pedagogy specifically for contemporary styles. And I'm kind of in the somatic voice work line of Jeanette Lavetri. There's a nice Italian name for you. But we at Berklee, the teachers, bring a very common sort of understanding of vocal technique, whether or not they're somatic or estal or other methods. So what I want to do in this workshop, in this series of workshops, is talk about vocal technique and kind of help people understand that you don't need to be afraid of it. A lot of singers are afraid that teachers will take their essence away from them when they work on their technique, and that's not true. My philosophy is that I just want my students to develop the most efficient neutral and the most beautiful palette of choices for versatility and for efficiency and health. And then you can do whatever you want outside of that neutral. You can make your own artistic choices. You are an artist. You get to decide. No voice teacher tells you how to be an artist and what your art looks like. All I can do is be a guide to help you have more colors for your painting. And I'm very passionate about that, and I believe in it. And personally, after I learned how to teach vocal technique for contemporary styles, my own art became more colorful and interesting and free and released and in the moment. So I'm an advocate of working on it. And in performance, maybe we don't allow those thoughts to go through our heads, but in the development, in the practice room, we think about this stuff all the time. Does that make sense? Okay, so my first question for you is, how many of you have had vocal training? And maybe you can put in the comments how many years, and even maybe a description of what kind. So were you primarily classically trained? Have you studied with contemporary voice teachers? And how many years? I'm going to give you just a minute to answer. I wish I could see your faces so I could tell where you are, but I'm going to keep going now. And how many of you have had performance training or performance experience? That could be musical theater, that could be your own band, that could be choral music, acting. If you could also give me a little descriptive about that and how many years. And then I have one more question for you. What would you like to get out of the next 2 sessions? What are you really interested in being exposed to? What would you like to learn from me? What are you working on? Just generally, if you could choose what you were going to get out of the next 2 sessions, what would they be? And I'll give you a minute or 2. Thank you. I can see some of your answers popping up. That's very exciting to know that you're there with me. Okay. And then actually I have one more question, and you can choose to answer it or not, but it might help me gauge what your experience base has been like. If you could just tell me how old you are. I know we have a variety of ages. There's no restriction. It's exciting to cover all the ground. I just kind of want to know for my own, so I can give you what will be best for you, or what I think. Nice. So exciting to see you respond. I'm so glad you're here with me. Okay, so I'm going to just start touching on some of the things that I'll talk about next time, particularly. My idea is that this is sort of an introduction and a little bit of common terminology, and next time will be more specifically about vocal technique. And then the third session will be possibly a recap of technique and then some kind of performance masterclass thing. We won't get to everyone, but we might have a few people perform briefly and kind of have some interaction that way. A lot of you will know some of this terminology and a lot of you won't. So I just want to get on the same page. So one of the driving factors, the most important things about vocal technique is, particularly for contemporary styles, although I think it applies for all styles, is this concept of registration. If you know what I mean with that, I'm just going to recap it anyway. So if you put your hand about the middle of your throat, if you're a male, you can definitely feel a bulge, and we call that in English an Adam's apple. I have no idea what it would be called really in any other language. I guess I need to learn that terminology. And women often don't have a bulge there, but some of us do. I can feel it a little bit. So if you drag your finger down until you feel a little ridge, that behind there sits your larynx. And if you do you know what yodeling or flipping is? So you hear pop singers do this. You certainly hear country Western American singers do this. Tarzan did it. It's a flip. The definition of a yodel is an abrupt flip from chest register to head register and back. So I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to teach you to yodel. I'm just using this for demonstration purposes. So, and the thing is, you're muted, so you can do whatever you want in your own house and nobody will know or care. But it's if I go, right? So that's not a very pretty sound, but I might use it in singing. Hey, or something like that, right? So if you can do that, then you're actually using both registers abruptly. You're switching from one register to chest register to head register abruptly. And the only reason I care about this is because if you put your hand on where your Adam's apple would be, if you put your hand on your Adam's apple and you make that sound where you flip from one register to the other, so start low and go high without any slide, it can't be connected. You can actually feel this mechanism moving. So let's try that. And I'm going to let you look at my throat and see if you can see it. You see that jump? That's this mechanism doing what it's supposed to do for driving registration. The larynx is the driver of register choices. And we use the idea of registration because in my particular style of teaching, I want you to know what chest register is and feels like, what your head register is and feels like. You're going to develop those both things. But the ultimate goal is to put them in the middle, to meet them, to merge them so that you have the most choices. And we call that mix. Now, my terminology is we have two registers and mix is the combination of those two. So chest register, head register, mix. All teachers talk about this just a little bit differently. There's a lot of language that's not common throughout all the styles. It doesn't really matter. We all get to the same point. Your teacher might talk about it differently, but for me, conceptually, it's easier to understand if it's chest, head, mix. Okay, and head voice, for guys, some people might call that falsetto. I just call it the same thing. Mechanically, it is, in my terminology, the same thing. So let's talk about what that means a little bit. So if this is just an analogy, the larynx looks nothing like this, but it helps me demonstrate a little bit what the motion is. So if it sits in your throat, it's much, much smaller than this. It has a mechanism where it tilts. And the vocal folds, the ones that meet and they meet and vibrate to cause sound, to cause phonation, they are attached in the back so that when it tilts, they stretch. So if you're in the lowest part of your voice, the vocal folds, some people call that thick fold. The vocal folds are thicker and they're more relaxed, kind of like a low E string on a guitar. And they vibrate when air strikes them at a much slower rate. And that results in lower pitch. Okay? And when you're in your highest notes, the larynx is actually tilted and the vocal folds elongate and the air strikes them and they vibrate faster. And that results in higher pitch. Nadia, do you think that I should stop and let you talk about that, or do I just keep going?
I mean, I think everything's going. I'm seeing, I don't know if you're managing to see all the comments, Cindy, that if you're on StreamYard, instead of Facebook, you can even read the comments from YouTube. I've got some kids asking about head voice, my nightmare. I see Alessia. What about a cry register? So yeah, there are quite a few things here. Obviously, as you were saying, everyone has different ways of talking, different terms. So I think you're doing great.
Okay, great. That's actually why I wanted to spend the time today to kind of get some common terminology, because every teacher talks about this stuff different. Okay, so I'll just carry on. And if you need to interrupt me, please do.
Don't worry. I'm going
to go back. Yeah. And I'm going to go back, guys. And I shouldn't say guys. We are not all guys. We are lots of women too. I'm going to go back, folks, people, y'all. We say y'all in the southern part of the U.S. That means you all. I'm going to go back and read all the comments and kind of collect them and make sure that I address as many of them as I can in the 2 future sessions. I will answer the cry question. That is a form of mix. So it's like if I say, ha, 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 that's like I'm mixing both registers. And I want to clarify one thing. You don't have to stay, Nadia, if you don't want to.
All right, I'll leave you. I'll leave you to it.
Okay. Wow, I had this thought and it drifted away. I'll come back to it. So if I sing in my chest register, I'm down here and I can actually go much higher. And the definition, I'm going to ask you if you know what the definition of belting is, but you don't have to answer. This is how I teach my students. I make them answer questions even when they don't know the answer, because they actually have science that shows that people retain information even if they try to answer a question and they get the question wrong. Remember that. So it's better for you to exercise your brain to see if you can figure out the answer, even if you get it wrong. So the definition of belting, and this is my definition. This is also another one of those terms that's inconsistent across teachers, but I have a reason for teaching it this way. I do understand what other teachers are saying when they say it differently from me, but I teach isolated chest and isolated head. And the definition of belting is just a subset of isolated chest for me. So if you are actually in a full belt, per my terminology, I know this is controversial, it is isolated chest past your register break and loudly. And the volume part, the loud part, is actually redundant because you can't sing in isolated chest past your register break unless you're loud. So for those people like me who are chest dominant, most of us are either headier or chestier. If you're chest dominant, what happens is you get so used to singing in chest voice and you stay there all the time that you give up nuance in the middle. Like I didn't have any, I either broke into my head voice in a way that I couldn't control, or I just sang loud all the time. There was no dynamic control. I didn't have any dynamic choices because I did not understand how to use both registers and combine them in the way that helped me achieve whatever stylistic or artistic choice I wanted to make. So that's why I like to teach belting as a subset of isolated chest, because I feel like it reinforces the understanding. And I think I'm getting too far down in the technical weeds for you. But we're going to talk a lot about registers, and I want you to really understand what the difference between chest and head is. The other thing I wanted to say is this mechanism, this tilt that happens at the larynx, it's part of your body. It's a default. Okay, so the reason it does that, it's a floating device. And the reason it does that is because you know that we use pitch change in speech. We can say the same thing with different pitch choices and it means something entirely different. So if I say, te amo, don't judge my accent. Or I could say, te amo. I know my accent's terrible. I'm being funny. But you get the point. I can say, I love you. And that means something completely different than I love you. And I'm just moving. The larynx is responding differently, making my voice respond differently to affect actually the interpretation of the same 3 words. And I could show you millions more examples like that. So this is supposed to move. It's supposed to be default to wherever you are in your range as a neutral. And then we step outside of those choices when we're trying to be artistic. So if I wanted to, thank you. Thanks, Antonio. If I wanted to demonstrate, so I can sing, I'm just going to do a scale. I hope I didn't hurt your ears. That's belty. If I sing, that's sort of a chesty mix. I can feel it. I know what it feels like. I also know what it sounds like. But for a long time, I could only tell what things sounded like. I couldn't tell what they feel like. And so that's another part of my technical method that I really think is important. The more you can learn what things feel like, the more you can change something to result in a different option, different choice, right? So sentient awareness, and I had none when I first started. I couldn't feel anything. So some of my students feel stuff quickly and some of them don't, but the pursuit is always there. Start closing your eyes and thinking about what things feel like. Think about where your tongue is, what it feels like. What about your jaw? Do you have tension there? Can you let it go? Could you hold a little bird's egg between your molars and not crush it? Sometimes I could not. But that's my goal. My intention is I don't want to crush the bird's egg in my molars, in my jaw. Okay. I can also sing it this way. Oh, it's pretty hard that low for me because I never really sing that way. But you classical singers know that you're taught to pull your head voice down lower and lower into your register to result in a particular characteristic sound for classical voice, especially women. It's a little bit different for men. But if I want to go higher, watch your ears. I'm going to try not to hurt you, but just be sure that you don't have it turned up too loud. So that's isolated head voice. I am not warmed up. That was a little raspy. Not enough sleep last night, but you get the idea. Being able to, on a dime, choose how I'm going to use my instrument is super, super powerful. Just amazingly powerful as a vocal artist. And I strongly encourage you to keep down the path of that because then you just have more and more freedom in your own art. Okay, so that's a lot of information about registration. The one thing I said before, I'm going to recap. I want to make sure that my students have the most efficient and neutral possible. And efficiency means that my vocal folds are meeting. On your own, let's all do this. So do you know what the word phonation means? I'm going to tell you. It means, we're not talking about resonance, we're talking about phonation. Phonation is just a definition, and it means that the vocal folds meet and vibrate. So they're closed and they're actually vibrating. And the vibration results when the air, Alessia, I probably won't have enough time for that this time around. Anyway, vocal folds meet and vibrate, and the way they vibrate is that the air comes up through the pharynx and strikes them, kind of like if your hammer hits the piano string. That's what causes the piano string to vibrate. If the airflow strikes the vocal folds and they're closed, that's what causes them to vibrate. And we talked about that they would vibrate more slowly if the vocal folds are at their thickest state and the larynx is closed, and they will vibrate faster if the larynx is at its most tilted state and they are elongated, thinner, thin fold, thick fold, thick fold, thin fold. And where was I? So I'm reading, these comments are like, they're so cute and fun. So that's what phonation is. Phonation is when your vocal folds meet and vibrate. It can be anywhere in your range. And we do it in speech, of course. And I want you to do this on your own. So if I say the consonant S, am I vibrating? Am I phonating? No, I'm not. The vocal folds are apart. The air is going through the middle of them. The sound that distinguishes that consonant happens in front of the larynx, in the mouth. Okay, that's all right here. Air's going across the bottom of my tongue to make that sound. I don't know if you have this sound. Not every language has this sound. Let me think if I can think of another one. Yeah, let's do. Everybody has that sound. So if you say, are you phonating? Yes, you are. You're phonating. The vocal folds are meeting and they're vibrating to produce sound. So if you can go back between you'll actually feel this motion, this closure of the folds, and that they meet and they vibrate. I teach it this way. I teach our English C. I don't think you have that consonant in Italian, but if we go, can you make that sound, that Z sound? Say yes or no. Anyway, you can feel the closure. You can feel that motion. That is phonation. That's the difference between non-phonating consonants and phonating consonants. That's very, very technical. The only reason I want to tell you this is because what you want to do is when your vocal folds are meeting, you want them to close all the way. So if I say, I can get a sound. It's not very efficient. It means that air, my vocal folds aren't meeting all the way. There's a gap in them, and air's escaping through the middle. So it's like driving a car with a hole in your gas tank. You can still go until the gas runs out, but you're not going to get as far. You might not be able to go as fast. I don't really know if that's true or not. So if I close my folds all the way, then I have more volume with less work. So if I say, I'm going to try to do everything the same. I'm going to try to use the same amount of work. I don't know if I can do it. Yeah, about the same amount of work for both of those. And you could hear that the second one was way, way louder. And I didn't do anything extra except that I got my vocal folds to meet. So that's like a very important concept for efficiency for singers. Does that mean that I always choose that concept? Do I always choose to be closed? No. If I'm singing a jazz song, tall and tan and young and handsome, the boy from Ipanema goes walking. I'm at altitude, so I'm running out of air faster. I might do that I might have a microphone. I don't have to sing with so much projection because I'm on a microphone. There is a stylistic difference that's a little more intimate in this breathy sound. I can do it in speech as well. I don't have to be as loud all the time. I don't have to project that much. But if I want to, then I support my sound and I make my vocal folds meet and I don't work as hard. And then I can cut above the band as opposed to being super small or more soft, right? Okay. So efficiency is one of the basic tenets of good vocal technique, even if you decide to depart from that. Like I said, I don't tell you that you have to do everything the most perfect way all the time, because honestly, I think that would be boring. And it wouldn't reflect me and it wouldn't reflect you. But when I need it, I can find it. And if I'm belting, I need it. I don't know. I teach belting in my studio mostly because my students all want to be able to do that. I don't care if you ever belt. I want you to learn how to close your folds. I think that's really important. Important. Okay. So we talked about efficiency, efficient, neutral. Where are we on time? Oops, lost my clock. And we talked about registers, chest and head. Somebody asked which vocal exercises can help correct phonation and vocal folds to get the vocal folds to meet. Anything that's like an NG hum. So if you say, if I say sing, signora, if you stay on the sing, that fosters vocal fold adduction. Adduction meaning pulling together. I don't know how y'all are doing so well with all this terminology in English, because I surely don't know it in any other language, and I speak two other ones. Sing, so if you do just wherever your pitch feels comfortable. That tends to get the vocal folds to meet. Can I do it without having my vocal folds meeting? Yes, listen. But it's not very easy and it's not very comfortable. You're always looking for it should feel good. Everything should feel good because you want to make it as easy on yourself as possible. So if something doesn't feel good, then probably you could adjust something and make it feel better. Okay. That's one tenet, is that vocal folds meet all the time. So you can keep thinking about that. Another syllable is E, but that's not a very pretty sound necessarily. And it definitely doesn't resonate as beautifully in your own ears as it does in the room. So who knows who Aretha Franklin was? I'm glad y'all are understanding. Aretha Franklin is the best singer that ever lived, in my opinion. She was just amazing. I mean, amazing. So if you listen to her, she's not belting that much. She does belt sometimes, and you should go look her up. Can somebody type her name in the Facebook chat for me so that they know who to look up? Google her. She had a huge, long career. She started when she was very young, maybe in her late teens or early 20s. And she just died a few years ago. And I don't know how old she was, in her 70s, I think. And she just sang amazingly all the way till the end. There's one performance. It's from the Kennedy Center Honors of Carole King. Carole King was a very, very prolific and amazing American songwriter. She is. She's definitely still alive. And Aretha Franklin sang her biggest hit that Carole King wrote, and it's called Natural Woman. A lot of you might know that song, but she sings it. You make me feel, you make me feel. I don't sound anything like Aretha Franklin. The point is that she's doing that very nasal forward sound. Forward is a vocal term that people use that if you don't really know what it means, you just don't know what it means. It doesn't make any sense. But if I tell you to talk in your nose, talk like Bart Simpson, I wonder how Bart Simpson talks in Italian. Probably the same. You know that you have to pull your sound, and kind of like what happens is that I put the back of my tongue closer to my hard palate to make the sound be a lot more horizontal and not as tall as we might want in vowels in classical music. So if you think musical theater, they're very, very bright. The sound is very bright because it cuts, and it's also very efficient. So you can actually practice pulling your sound forward, and you won't believe me that a lot of times it sounds just as good as any other choice, and it's way easier, much more efficient. But you will not believe me if you don't record yourself, because it just doesn't sound like it would ever sound as good. Then go back and listen to Aretha Franklin and try to sound like her, because she was a master at this. I call this kind of an R&B mix sound, which is a little like a cry, right? So listen to her and start listening to all these singers that you love. Demi Lovato, y'all can list some of the ones that you love in the chat so I can go back, and I love to keep up with my students. I'm really a jazz singer, so mostly I know all the jazz singers, but I don't always know all the pop singers. List them in there, and then start thinking about what they might be doing anatomically. How are they making that sound? Where are they putting their tongue? Where's their throat? What kind of mix is it? Does it have more head register in it or more chest register? Or is it all one or all the other? You won't know the answers immediately if you haven't done some of this work up front. But if you start asking the questions, your brain will figure it out. My goal is for my students to learn how to self-teach. I want all of you to learn how to self-teach, because that's how you get better. You can't rely on someone else to always tell you exactly how to solve a problem. You have to figure out how to learn enough that you can solve your own problems and empower yourself to grow as much as you are passionate about it. How'd I do? I can't hear you, Jason. Oh. Nope, you're still muted.
Really?
No, you are not.
See, I unmuted, and then and now everything's good. This was fantastic. It's obviously the next two sessions that you're going to run, you're going to be digging in heavily into these areas, and and we'll have the opportunity for the participants to actually connect with you one-on-one. We're in Facebook Live today, so it's harder to have that direct connection, but people are able to comment. But when we have these next two sessions that are coming up, and as we get further along, Nadia will share out that detail, they'll be able to actually work with you, and you'll be able to kind of coach them a little bit in this remote forum that we have. But oh my God, so much information.
It's a lot of information. You get to listen to the recording and take notes later.
Yeah, well, this is also a great idea, is people will be able to download this and or go back and view it and bookmark it. I love the idea of the goal being that the information you're sharing is so that these artists are going to be able to actually go back and deconstruct things and teach themselves and actually find ways to problem solve, what they're doing with their instrument, and make it easier for them to, ask the questions to improve, what they're doing with their voice and their delivery. And I know you're going to get into more things along with just the idea of getting up and performing and approach to your audience, right?
Yeah, I am. And those of you that have teachers, don't be afraid to ask these questions. Remember that we don't all exactly talk about things the same way, so they might disagree with some of the things I present. I have a reason for presenting them, and I know all the other arguments. But I cannot wait to see your beautiful faces and hear your beautiful voices. I'm so excited and honored to be part of this. And I'm really, really looking forward to the next session. So I can't wait to read your answers of what you want me to help you with.
Cindy, thank you so much for your time. It's great to see you.
Likewise.
Safe travels. We'll see you back in Boston in a couple of weeks. And, I'm sure you're going to have some great food down there in Mexico. So
I already have.
Yeah. I
had fish tacos yesterday that were just ridiculous, and ceviche. Yum.
Oh wow, you're totally. It's tough. Look at that. Jeez. Well, it's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
And,
y'all have a great session. Have a great day, y'all.
Cool. Thanks, Cindy.
Bye.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. There's a great kickoff to the sessions that you're going to have with Cindy Scott on vocal technique and interpretation. And as we get to the end of this session with Tour Music Fest today, we'll be sharing out the details of when those upcoming sessions are. What I'd like to do now is, we have the opportunity to connect with you this way, but as Cindy said, we're only seeing you here on the Facebook stream. And what I'd love to do is to get the chance to know you more and also to be able to share information about Berklee with you. So you can follow us online at Berklee Global, the @ symbol, and Berklee Global on social media. That's on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. But down here in the banner, we'd love for you to share, just some contact details so that we can send you updates. We can send you information about upcoming Berklee events. We're going to be back out on the road, traveling later this year, we hope. So we're going to get a chance to hopefully see you in person when we go out and do auditions and interviews and clinics around the world. So thank you for, filling out the URL and clicking on the URL and filling out the information form so that we can get information to you. And I'm going to put a QR code in the thread here in Facebook as well. We'll put the link in there so that you can, be sure to fill out that information form to get more details about Berklee. Right now, we're going to move on to the next segment of our program. And, this is comprehensive. This is Berklee. We come at you with everything. So we've got amazing vocal performance technique. Now we're going to move into an area that I think many of us are really interested in working in as songwriters and producers, especially songwriting, co-writing, and how you bring all the elements together. And we've got an amazing artist. He's been working in the music industry since he signed his first record deal at age 19. From then, he's gone on and he's worked on gold and platinum award-winning projects. These projects have sold over 11 million units. 11 million. That's a lot. And that's units. That's not like streams. This is actually, people getting the product, right? He's contributed to 4 Grammy-nominated and 2 Latin Grammy-nominated projects, as well as he's been on, a project for the 2004 Billboard Latin Pop Album of the Year. He's contributed to TV shows with Ellen DeGeneres and Golden Globe series. I don't know if you get it over there in Europe, but we have it here in the United States. It's super popular. It's called The Shield. He's a keyboardist. He's a singer. He's a producer. He's worked with, Stevie Wonder, Roger Daltrey, Eric Clapton, so many incredible artists. He is a Berklee alum. He graduated from Berklee at a dual major when he was at Berklee, and he'll talk more about that. And he went on to Full Sail to get his master's degree in music business and entertainment. And I'm so excited to have him here. So please join me in welcoming the amazing artist, producer, songwriter, Rodney Alejandro. Rodney, thanks for joining us for the session today.
Hey, how's it going? So good to be here.
Awesome,
Ciao.
Actually, and you've actually spent some time in Europe and in Italy, yes?
Absolutely. My stepbrother lives outside of Lucca. So I go there quite often to Lucca, and almost every other year. We alternate years. So it's a great place to be.
That's beautiful, man. And thank you for participating and joining us as the team for Tour Music Fest this year. You bring a wealth of expertise and experience as an artist, as a writer, as a producer. And you're going to be focusing on the songwriting piece, but you've got like some interesting ways of, working with songwriters. And I'm going to turn it over to you so you can jump in and, begin to kind of like talk a little bit about how you're wanting to work with all these incredible artists. We've got, now I think we're up to about, how many people are joining us right now? We're at 750. We've been up around 800. So we've got a nice big audience online.
Nice. Great. Well, thanks so much for having me here, Jason, and Tour Music Fest. This is really awesome opportunity for me as well. And just to shout out to everyone out there all over Italia. Also, congrats on the Euro Cup win. That was awesome. So, yes. So as Jason was saying, I'm a producer, songwriter, arranger, composer, musician. I've worn a lot of hats in my great blessed career that I have, and been able to, work with some amazing artists, learn from those amazing artists, and as well as develop some of my own kind of things. I do have to say that attending Berklee changed my life, like literally, from someone who didn't really know what was going on with the music industry, because no one in my family plays music. No one in my family was in the music industry. Like, I might as well have been a stranger to where I was. And until I went to Berklee, after I signed a deal as an artist and really learned the business and really learned songwriting and learned arranging and production and engineering, that my life really did change. And I was able to work with legends and develop new artists and all these other, just fascinating and interesting opportunities that came my way. And I do owe a deal of gratitude to Berklee for providing the education and the opportunity to be able to do what I love to do my whole life. Again, I know I've talked about visiting there, but I've also played in Milan several times. So that's been awesome. But I don't know what came to my head right now. But how I like to do my classes is I'm free. Ask me a question while I'm talking. If something comes up, pose a question, and I'll try to get to it as much as I can. And if Jason or Nadia can help with anything, I'll try to stay on top of both the chat columns. So I know most of you are doing this process or will be writing songs. I want you to think about something. Why do you write songs? Why do we write songs? Why do we have songs? What's the whole purpose of songs in the first place, right? From what I understand, this contest, you're going to be presenting yourself. You're going to be presenting some new music. There's something that has to happen with your songs to be able to reach a wide audience, right? So you have to ask yourself, why am I writing this song? So we're going to talk about several aspects of songwriting, arrangement, as well as presentation of that song. It is not just by chance or luck that a song goes viral, or that a song goes to the top of the charts, or that it just goes out and all of a sudden the whole world knows the song. That's just not how it happens. Songs are designed to catch people's attention, right? So even though we might write songs about our emotions and our feelings and whatever that comes, whatever we want to express, it's about designing it so that an audience can take it in. And not only can they listen to it and it's friendly, they remember it, right? So if you write a song that isn't memorable or doesn't have, people can't pick up on it, they'll just move on to the next song. So there are elements that we teach here at Berklee of the important foundations for a song, right? What are the most important things that need to be there to write from one point to the next, right? Yes, writing song is an art. Art form is important. And even within art, you definitely have technical analysis. You have to be able to do it a certain way in order to be able to, again, for people to appreciate it. So like I was saying here at Berklee, we teach you all the foundations of good songwriting. And then you take those foundations and you can go and create and interpret those foundations in a way that best suits you and the type of music you make. So one thing that's very important for everyone, each and every one of you who are watching this, or you have your own unique journey, right? You're on this planet, you're living your life. The things you go through are the things you go through as an individual. You might share a similar experience with someone else, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the same experience, the same emotional impact. So therefore, what you have to say about it is just as valuable as the next person. And in a song, right, I might hear one of your songs and go, wow, I've never experienced that particular thing, but I definitely know how that feels because something similar like that happened to me in my life, and that's how I become attached. So for an example, if you telling me a story about, walking on the beach in Via Reggio, right? Now, luckily, I've walked on the beach in Via Reggio, but I've also walked on the beach on Cape Cod, and I've walked on the beach in Hawaii, and I've walked on the beach in lots of places. So the idea is since I'm familiar with it, you might say you walked on the beach in Sardinia, and I've never been to Sardinia. But like I said, I've been to Via Reggio, or I've been to Portofino, and I've been to all these other places. So when you tell me your song about the place you're at, but on the beach, I'm going to put myself in the experience of the place I've been. So this is why it's important to use details in your songs, as well as being very, drawing a picture, right? And how we connect with people. And I'll get to there first in a minute. So here's the first thing I want to announce. So whether you're starting out as a songwriter, then this is your first time you're going to submit as a songwriter, or you've been writing songs a long time. Here's a couple of things you want to try and keep in mind. There's creating, and then there's crafting, right? There's creating and there's crafting. So when we create, what we're doing is we're allowing ourselves to think without judgment, right? I know some of us, like, we're writing an idea and we go, oh, I don't know if that's good enough. Oh, I don't think they're going to like it. Oh, I don't know if that's the right note. Oh, if I don't, as soon as we start doing that, we are killing the creative process. We are cheating ourselves from the opportunity to get the best idea out, because we're starting to block it with judgment, right? And what we want to do is we want to just let the ideas come out. So when we create, just let the ideas come out. When you're creating for a song for the first time, or you have an idea in your head, and just keep going through it. If it sounds crazy, even better. Just let it come out. Let it come out. Let it come out. Right? Let that creative flow happen. You might do it for 5, 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes until you just feel like it's all out of you. Right? It's almost like exercising. You can exercise till you pass out, or you can quit in the middle and there's no benefit. Right? So if you keep going the full route, you get all the full benefit out. So that's creating. All the ideas come out. Whether you're writing lyrics or whether you're writing melodies and recording ideas, just let it come out. That's creating. Now, next process is going to be crafting, right? So we're talking about creating versus crafting. Crafting is when you take all these tools that you've learned about songwriting and then go back and take all those creative things that have come out of you and go, ooh, That melody sounds good. That lyric, that sounds like something I can build on. And then you start using the tools to shape and mold and craft the song into position, into what it's supposed to be. Design it for its purpose, right? That purpose is to express our emotion, and we want the world to hear our music. We want them to be able to sing along. So you got crafting, let it all come out. Don't judge yourself. And if you're writing with someone else in collaboration as a co-writer, the both of you make a promise to each other that you won't put anything negative on any idea. Any idea, every idea is the best idea that comes out. And just let it come out. If he says something crazy to you, you're like, well, that's crazy. But you know what? It's making me think of this. And then you got a better idea. That's creating. Then we're going to crafting. And if you're working with a collaborator, now you have two brilliant minds working together to make these ideas better, right? It's not about my idea is better than your idea. It's about what can we combine together to make the best idea. And that's crafting, learning how to use your rhymes, learning how to use the song form, learning how to use line length, learning how to use the syllables, how to use the vowel sounds, right? All these are part of crafting. That's analysis. That's when you go, this rhyme can be better than that rhyme. But the original raw creative idea is still there. So that's what's super important. Creating versus crafting. And the more you learn about the more you learn as a songwriter and songwriting, the more tools you have to work with, right? When you're creating, whatever comes out of your head comes out of your head. You have an unlimited amount of tools that you can use. I don't consider myself a singer, even though I sing a little bit. I don't consider myself a singer, but I tell you what, I'll step up to the microphone and just sing like if I was Bruno Mars, even though I know I'm not. Right? So, because I want those ideas to come out. And then when I'm crafting, I go, son, you're not Bruno Mars. So this is what you need to do with that melody to make it better. Right? So as you're crafting your songs and the more tools, the more tools you get, it's like having a toolbox or a color set, right? If you only have two colors, then you're only going to get those two colors and then any shade in between. But as you learn about song form and you learn about rhymes and you will learn about all the different versions of rhymes and you learn about a line length and syllables and hook placement and, title versus swing versus what, when you learn all the tools, that color box starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And now you have more ways to shape all that creative idea, right? So that's creating versus crafting. Please remember those two things and don't cheat yourself out of creating. Sometimes you can create all day long and maybe not craft because you're just spitting out ideas, right? But the crafting part, again, that's more analytical. And that's why you come to a school like Berklee, where you learn all these amazing tools and then you apply them to your natural creativity, your experience, what you've listened to over your life, what you've done about, what you've done in an experience in your life. Music instruments for the song. How do you manage to write lyrics and melodies that have never been used with common themes, very artist composed about? Good question. How do you write about something that's already been written about 1,000,000 times? Well, guess what? Most songs are probably written about love, right? Loving someone, loving something, right? And then when we take love into perspective, we got the good side of love, right? The happy love. We got the very brand new love. Oh, let me say this first. How we write it is that the reason why we continue to write new songs about some of the similar themes is because I go back to what I said earlier. We all experience life differently. 7+ billion people on the planet, 7+ billion experiences of love. Each one of us could write a song, even though it might not be popular. Each one of us could write a song about that, right? So we each experience it differently. So therefore, yes, even though Beyonce's made a song about love, doesn't mean I can't make a song about love, right? Yeah, probably the most used theme ever. But then now let's break it down, right? Even if we take the topic of love, there's so many ranges of it, right? There's the very beginning when you just meet somebody and it's brand new. There's the part where you've been kind of with someone for like 2 or 3 years. Then there's a serious love where you fall in love and now, you know, it's all serious. And we're talking like, you know, evergreen, like, Ed Sheeran, you know, we're talking about, you know, serious parts of love. Maybe the heart, Julia Michaels put out a song called Love is Weird recently. Right now we're talking about how love can be so happy and so hurtful, and it's the same thing, you know. And then you have breakup songs, right? I was in a band called The Script, and all of our songs were called breakup songs, right? The Man Who Can't Be Moved, Break Even. We talked about that love that was about breaking up and you know, that part. And then there's the end part of love. So there's so many topics, even within a lot of these themes, you know, you can pick to talk about. We talk about having fun, right? We talk about going out dancing. We talk about relationships. We talk about ourself. You know, there are loads of topics that we can talk about when it comes to songs. All right. Now, we're talking about crafting and creating. I hope I answered that question. I was talking about crafting and creating, but where do we start sometimes? Okay. A lot of times, I'm sure many of you try to sit down, write a song, try to start from nowhere. It's really hard to do that. Right. And especially in an event like this, you want to try to work towards your best songs, you know. So one way to do this is what we call here, just anywhere, and we use this at Berklee as well. It's called collecting song seeds. Right. Seeds of songs. That is, how many of you, you know, walking down the street, riding your bike, on the train, and a music idea comes to your head, right? And you go, oh, what do? Do you forget about it? Or you just let it go? That's a song seed. That's a start of a song. You might not be able to work on it in the moment, but it's definitely the start of a song. Maybe, you know, maybe it's not a melody. Maybe it's a lyric idea. Maybe you see a line, you see something out while you're walking around. It's a cool phrase. Oh man, that feels like that could be a song. Well, that little idea is a song seed. That melody that comes in your head is a song seed. So that's the start of songs. Now you're going to take that seed, and maybe you go to the studio when you have time, or you're wherever you are and you have time when you're at your instrument, and now you create on that seed. So you're going to plant that seed in your brain, and now what other ideas come, again, without judgment, et cetera, et cetera. And then you can craft from that idea. But you want to start collecting those. Try to challenge yourself to maybe collect 3 to 5 song seeds a day, right? And again, it could be anything. Something you see out on the street. Maybe you're watching television and someone says something you really like. Sounds like a song title. Maybe sounds like a lyric. Write it down. A melody comes to your head, and it's only one little bit of a melody. Put it on your voice. Put it on your voice notes. If you all have phones, record it on a voice memo. Yeah. If you're in the studio and you're playing chords and a melody comes to you, but it's not really like your creative moment, something comes, record it. Song idea. So if you can collect these song ideas, then when you have the time to sit down and allow yourself to create, you can go back to that list of song seeds and go, ooh, let's listen to that. Okay, not bad. How about that one? This one was from like 3 weeks ago. I was in a totally different mood. How about this one? This one was like from 3 months ago. Wow, that sounds cool. I'm going to work on that. And now you have a starting place. Not that that's going to be the idea or the finished product, but you have a starting place as to where you can go with that song. All right. So now when you're coming into song, the next big thing about song. So now you got ideas on how to create, how to craft. You have ideas to collect ideas for songs. So as you present your songs, here's some of the biggest things you want to kind of make sure that you kind of have together. Here are some of the designs of song that most people, when we listen, we catch on to. And again, this doesn't matter what language you're writing in, right? If I listen to K-pop or J-pop or songs in Italian or songs in French, I can always tell when they're really designed right. I can tell when I'm at the verse. I can tell when I'm at the chorus without knowing the language. Because the way the melody rises or the way the melody works or the way the song sections play, I know where I'm at in the song. So when you're writing your songs, you're going to want to make sure that the song form is clear. Am I starting with the verse and then going to the chorus? If I'm starting with the chorus, then going to the verse, what are my sections going to be? Because that's going to help me decide what's going to be where, and then the listener can follow along a lot clearly, right? So song form is very important. And in song form, we have these are the different sections you can put together to make a song form, right? Introduction, verses, pre-choruses, choruses, post-choruses, interludes. You can have a bridge. You can have a solo, right? You can have a rap section. So you want to puzzle piece these sections together when you're forming your song to be able to create a journey. What's going to be the best order? And typically, verse, pre-chorus, chorus is the most common form at the moment. And now with post-chorus. There's different variations on form, but make sure when you're writing your song, it's clear. If you know you're starting in the verse, make sure it sounds like a verse. When you move into the chorus, make sure it sounds like the chorus. Now, I think I saw someone saying here, why do I always start with a refrain? Do you mean the chorus section? Because I know sometimes in some other languages, we call the chorus the refrain. So the big section, the chorus section of any song, right? If we take a song like, I'm trying to think of a song right off of my head, a big song, Bruno Mars, Treasure. That is what you are. You're my shining star, right? Treasure, that part of the song is the chorus. That's the part we want the entire world to sing with us, right? So when you're writing a chorus section, whether you're doing a James Blake or whether you're doing anyone, there's always form. There's always a part that leads you to the most part. Another way to get the chorus is what's the most repeated section? Choruses typically repeat. The verses repeat, but the melody only and the lyrics change. But the chorus, lyrics, and melody are 99% of the time the same. Chorus 1, chorus 2, chorus 3. That repeating section is a part that the writer wants you to stick with, right? So they want you to remember that part. And in that chorus is typically the title of the song. It's in the title of the song is going to show up once, at least once. And a lot more times. If you can get 4 times out of it, it's even better. Like watermelon sugar high, watermelon sugar high, watermelon sugar high, watermelon sugar high from Harry Styles. 4 repeats of the title, which leads me to repetition. Repetition is a key element to writing memorable songs. When we hear something repeated, we tend to remember it. I'll say it again. When we hear something repeated, we tend to remember it. And the more it repeats, the more we remember it, right? And this is why songs, choruses repeat so much. We want you to remember the chorus. We want you to remember that section. Why? Because then you'll remember who the artist is. You'll remember the song. You want to come back and listen to it again. Yeah. I just look trying to find out if we're catch up with it. I don't speak Italian. I've contributed songs, but I'm not an Italian writer. All right. So when you got form down, the next thing you want to look for in a song, again, I'm thinking about songs for a contest like this, where loads of people are going to listen, in this event, and you want as many people to support you with your song as possible, right? And that is, you want to have some kind of hook. What is that catchy element in the song that people are going to remember, right? When you listen to your favorite big songs, what is it you remember? What element? You're going to remember the title. You're going to remember some sound of the vocal melody line that went through there. And that's typically what's called a hook. We call that a hook in music. So you can have a chorus with no hook. That's not a great idea. You want to have a chorus that has a hook, something that is super catchy that the audience will listen to, the audience will remember, right? And hooks come, oh my goodness, in so many forms. I teach a class at Berklee that we talk about hooks. We have melodic hooks, we have lyric hooks, we have rhythmic hooks, we have performance hooks, right? Where the way the artist sings it is, there's no one else can do it like them. I don't care if it's Cardi B. Oh, I'm not Cardi B, but it's something like that. Or Little John's, yeah, yeah, right? Those are performance hooks, right? And even though I don't sound like Little John, if you know the song, you kind of now know what I'm talking about, right? Lizzo has Juice, blame it on the goose, blame it, why am I here on the loose, right? She's using rhyme as a hook. Or 24 Karat Golden, why you always in the mood, trying to do, using the rhyme again as a hook element in that song, right? So when you have your chorus, you want to find something that is hooky, catchy. Rhythm, watermelon sugar, high, watermelon sugar, high. That 16th note rhythm pattern is very catchy, right? The secret of a hit song, well, no one writes hit songs. The record companies make hit songs, but we can write catchy songs. And if you write really strong, catchy songs, you have a very good chance of it becoming a hit. Again, repetition is the key for a song opportunity to become a hit song, right? The more we hear that same chorus, the more we hear it, the catchier it is, the stronger people remember it. All right. And why are hooks important and choruses important? If you remember your favorite songs, what is it you remember about them? Most of us like to sing and hum, even if we can't sing and we can barely hum. We, as listeners, take in the top line, the melody. And next we take in the bass line. Those are the two strongest elements in a song. So when that melody is really catchy, then that's what we'll walk away with. If the melody comes in short bits and pieces, a little bit at a time, it's easier to remember. So if you start singing a phrase and it's, super long, no one's going to remember it. But if I say, just that space alone, but if I say, you'll remember that. Because I'm not confusing it with a bunch of other words. So short phrases in succession or repetition can help a song become memorable. All right. So those are things you want to remember to make sure that your song is friendly and catchy. Right. Listen to your favorite songs and listen to how the phrases aren't super long. They're 1 bar, 2 bars, then you get some break, and then you get kind of the same thing. Listen to The Weeknd's Blinding Lights, which is a massive hit. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Right? There's that phrase, space, same phrase, space, same phrase, and then a little change. Right? So remember that it's not about really long and super, lyrical things. It's about short phrases that repeat, right? So, do you need a lot of discipline during writing? Do you need more inspiration or more discipline? Very good question. Awesome question. Inspiration is an instant, but from that inspiration, you can build a massive hit. So you need more discipline. And I'll put it this way. Max Martin in an interview stated that he wrote Hit Me Baby One More Time out of a dream. He had a melody come to his head. He got up, he recorded the idea, went back to bed. Next day he heard it, goes, that's a pretty good idea. Went to the studio, worked it all out. So that inspiration was an instant. And then he went to the studio to work on it, gave it to Britney Spears, and it was a massive hit, right? So I think you need more discipline for, you need more discipline for writing than inspiration. But please do not discount the inspiration. The inspiration is the start. It's the DNA. It's the seed of the song. And now you need the discipline to bring that together. I composed a TV show called The Shield. And the theme to the song was a phrase, just another day. As I watched the video, as I watched the filming of it, I heard that phrase, inspiration. And then it took me a weekend to compose it and write the rest of the lyric and to write everything else. So it took more discipline than that moment of inspiration. And it's a TV show, worldwide hit. And yeah, it was, it just took a moment, but I had to pay attention to that moment. So, all right. So now next we're going to go to, we were talking about hooks. We were talking about choruses. I like to start writing in the chorus. How much importance is counterpoint and harmony song? Yeah. Counterpoint and harmony, or counter melodies, as we like to say in songwriting, because we're trying to support a melody, right? Remember, people walk away singing melodies. When you name a song, when you name a favorite song you like, make sure that, melodies are what we remember. So we want to support that melody with counter melodies and harmony that enhances that. So one thing you can do is make sure that there's like other ideas, like motifs that support the melody. We don't want to confuse the melody and the lyric. Too many other melodies and counterpoint and all these things take away. We want to enhance it. So this is why background vocals are good. This is why having other elements like a guitar accent some of the melody will be great. All right, so let me see how many other questions we got real quick. I can get to. Oh, Jason's back. Did we run out of time? Holy moly. I was just getting started.
I know. Well, this is the thing, right? So now we get them like hooked, right?
Pun intended.
You get them like right there, and you're starting to reel them in. But it's
just like songs. We got to get them hooked.
Yeah, man. This is brilliant. My goodness. It's we were just actually chatting here about all of the information that you have to share and what these next two sessions that you're going to be doing will allow for these participants to dig into. And it's not going to be in Facebook Live. I mean, we have a massive audience online right now, but in the next couple of sessions, we're going to have a Zoom environment where people will be able to interact with you. And as we've talked about, you're really interested in hearing their music so that you can give them some feedback and really help critique the work that they're doing and give them some guidance to motivate them and push them forward, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I welcome everyone to bring in, however they're going to choose the songs, but I'll be looking for these kinds of things, choruses, hooks, making sure the melody's being supported throughout the song. So there's a clear form as well, just to, and I'll give you pointers on how to get that, especially on the music that I hear back.
Yeah, we've got Nikki here saying, she's like, no, don't let him go. But Nikki, Rodney's going to be back, and you got to make sure you come and check out these sessions. And as I mentioned earlier, Gianluca will throw the banner at the bottom. If you want more information about Berklee, we'd love to have you fill out the information form. It's going to help us to connect you with the programs that we offer. Rodney's a full-time professor. He works in our songwriting department, but he's doing all kinds of incredible work in the industry. And as well, you do like some of the summer programs, correct?
Yeah, I did a summer program in the summer. Yeah, absolutely.
And then we're obviously eager to get you out into the world.
Let's do it.
With global initiatives. And so that's going to be something that we hope to do. And I know that if we have the opportunity as we go forward with Tour Music Fest, when they start doing their camps in person, that'll be high on the list, I think. But ways people can connect with you online, you're on social media on all the platforms, yes?
Yeah, but it's easier to go to my website, leave an email, and I tend to respond that way better. Not always on social media, but as well, through Berklee site as well.
Link into the chat here again, and enjoy the rest of your break.
Oh, thank you, sir. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. Thank you so much for being part of this, and we're looking forward to these next two songwriting clinics and the masterclass that are coming up.
Cool. So in a couple of weeks, we'll see you all again. So arrivederci, grazie.
Ciao. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, so there you have it. You have Cindy Scott. from our voice department, world-traveling artist, performer with a depth of knowledge and expertise in many, many different styles. We've got Rodney Alejandro, Berklee graduate, working on award-winning projects, covering the gamut of songwriting, different approaches and production as well, and also a performing artist. So he brings it all together. Actually, they all do this, all of our presenters today. Before we go to our next artist, clinician that we have for you, what I'd like to do is just remind you, please, take a look at the thread at the bottom of the screen here. We'd love to have you connect with Berklee so we can share more information about our programs. Berklee's going to be out in the world. We're going to be out doing clinics and auditions and interviews as well later this year. But over the next, I think, 6 weeks, we are connected. We're with Tour Music Fest. We're going to be doing these clinics and master classes. Cindy, Rodney, and our next guest, Jason Stokes, are going to be giving you lots of incredible information about different ways to approach your artistry as performers, as songwriters, as producers. And what I'd like to do now is I think we have a little video. It's a 1 minute long video. But for those of you who have not had the opportunity to get to the Berklee campus in Boston, we also have a campus in Valencia, Spain. We have a center in Abu Dhabi, and we have the new campus in New York City. And we're going to share more videos about those in the upcoming sessions. But I'd love to share this video with you about the Berklee campus in Boston, just so you can see Berklee and the Boston Conservatory of Berklee and what the vibe is like, what the space is like. Gianluca, can you cue this up and play this for our guests today?
Berklee's Boston campus pulses with music, theater, dance, and artistic energy. Located in the city's vibrant Back Bay neighborhood, it's an ideal place to begin developing your lifelong professional network with artists and creative thinkers from all over the world. From our custom-built high-rise that houses students, a dining hall that doubles as a concert space, and a 10-studio music production complex, to our state-of-the-art classrooms, practice facilities, and performance halls, Berklee offers an unparalleled setting for students to learn and develop as artists. Find yourself here. Schedule a campus tour and experience Berklee firsthand.
Gianluca, thank you. It's great to share details about the space. Another reason why working with Tour Music Fest is so amazing is just like their teaching and programming is so in line with the Berklee experience. The mission that Tour Music Fest has about mentorship, about artistic growth, and in the development of your career as an artist, it locks in with Berklee, but also they're complete professionals. The teachers that they have, the spaces, the equipment, everything is world-class, top of the line. As you can see, even just in our engagement here remotely, it is something that is really special. They take great care in everything that they do to give you the best experience possible. And for those of you that are going into the competition as well, you'll experience that. And you'll see that it's a truly nurturing experience, and you'll come away wanting more, wanting to do this more, and wanting to continue your growth. And for folks like myself, we are your biggest fan. We want to see you do incredible work as artists. And this next person is somebody who I've had the opportunity to watch his career from when I met him at Berklee as a student. He's also a Berklee graduate. He's a fantastic musician, but his skill and expertise go way beyond that. He's a singer, songwriter, producer. He's a professor at Berklee. He's worked for many years in an area of Berklee that's really, really special. It's our city music, our educational outreach programs that go across the United States. And he's actually, I think, traveled abroad doing programs with them as well. He's an assistant professor in our music production and engineering department. And the people that he's worked with are pretty ridiculous. He's worked with India R.E., Corey Glover, David Ryan Harris, Soul Live, Lettuce, and many more. He's worked on projects with artists like The Outcasts as an engineer and producer, Boyz II Men, Silk, 2.0, R.E.M, Pink, Matchbox 20, Collective Soul, and even the Kronos Quartet. Incredible. And Mariah Carey. So many more. He's doing incredible work. He's worked in the film industry as well, working at Skywalker Ranch and American Zoetrope. And in 2001, he received a Grammy nomination for Album of the Year, in 2002 for Contemporary Album of the Year. He's been recipient of Berklee Scholarship. He's worked on our program in Atlanta. He's done so many incredible things, and it's so awesome because I'm really excited that he's going to be part of this. So join me in welcoming Mr. Jason Stokes. Jason, thank you for joining us, sir.
It's my pleasure to be here. It really is. So I'm kind of want to jump right into it because we don't have a lot of time. I have 2 more sessions with you, and I'm going to attempt to give you a foundation for the rest of your career. Here's the problem. They're going to tell you some things you like. I'm going to tell you some things you're not going to like. Right? That's just how it's going to be. Right? But at the end of it, I'm hoping you're going to have enough information to move forward and educate yourself, because that's the end goal. Right?
Absolutely, man. I'm loving your room there and that wall of amplifiers.
Yeah, that's only half, Jason. You'll have to come by. It won't fit in the frame. The other 6 won't fit in the frame.
Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir, and thank you for being here. Okay.
So it's a pleasure to be here. Feel free, Nadia, I know you're listening in, fly on the wall, big brother, right? If I know, even though it's something I try to work on, that I speak really fast, and that might be difficult for translation, I'm going to try to be conscious of my gait, but just let me know if I need to slow down. I'm watching the chat, but not the live stream. Hi, Laura. Hi, Lorenzo. It's good to be here with you guys. Thank you, Juliana or Julia. So here's the deal. There's only 2 principles that make this thing work. Just like anything else. Any kind of mechanics or physics, you have constructs and you have concepts on which those constructs are built, right? And so the problem is it's intuitive to attach yourself to constructs, and that is a death sentence because constructs are fluid. Concepts are not fluid. The tape machine is a construct. The tape machine is gone. It's been gone, right? Because it's a construct of the concept of audio recording. If you understand the concept, then it doesn't matter what the construct turns into, you'll understand it, right? So that's why in the 90s, when the tape machines went away, I jumped the gap to Pro Tools, and all my buddies, they now do something else. And I'll tell you why, because they didn't understand how a tape machine worked. So for me, because I knew how I understood the concept of magnetic recording, it was easy for me for someone to go, you know how a tape machine works? And I went, yeah. And they went, well, it's like that, except this. And I went, oh, and that was the end of it. But since they didn't understand the concept behind the construct, when the construct evaporated, which is what constructs do, let me tell you something. One day, Pro Tools is going to be gone. One day, Logic is going to be gone. One day, everything you know and use and are comfortable with will be gone. So if you attach yourself to that construct, what's going to happen is when it goes away, so will you. It makes more sense to attach yourself to the concept because the concept is overarching, right? Pro Tools works the same way a tape machine does. It's just a different form, but it's there's a piece that's different, but on the other side, it's the same concept, right? So there's some things you need to understand moving forward because you're attached to constructs because you don't understand the concept because you've never seen the real thing. It's kind of like I had a roommate in college and he was really into flight simulators. And on Friday afternoon, he would come home and with a 2-liter bottle of Code Red Mountain Dew, and he'd have a family-sized bag of Doritos, and he would be like, I'm going to fly to Paris tonight in the dark, instruments only. And he would sit there for 3 hours looking at instruments in a dark screen. And then he would land. He was like, that was a good landing. He was like, you should try it. It's fun. I can't use a flight simulator. I don't know how to fly a plane. I've never done that. I don't know what any of those instruments mean. He can fly a plane. So he has no problem with a flight simulator. So that's intuitive when you're talking about an aircraft. But for some reason, you feel like you can operate Pro Tools, but you don't know how to use a console. Pro Tools is a simulation of an environment where there is a console and there is a tape machine. The edit window is a tape machine, and the same thing with Logic. It's the same thing. All these workstations are just a simulation of an environment that has hardware. We just have moved away from it, right? But you weren't here to see that in most cases, so you can't connect to it. That's why I don't do writing wrong digitally. When I click insert in Pro Tools, in my head, I'm going to a patch band. I'm pulling out 4 cables and I'm going insert send to this thing. Out of that thing, insert return to this thing. And I go back to the console. And I go, and then so I never do it wrong, right? But that doesn't happen in your head because you've never done it. So that's okay when it comes to constructs that do digital recording or synthesis or something like that. But you have to understand the construct of how that works, so that number one, so that you can be effective with it. But number two, so that when it changes, that's not going to rock you, and you're not going to be out of the game, and you're not going to be out of the industry in 6 years. Right? I'm 51. I'm still working. Right? I can work on any console. I consistently walk into a room and sit down on a console I've never seen before. And someone goes, "Have you used this console before?" I'm like, "Nope." And then I start doing it. How do I do that? Because I understand the concept of how a console works. Right? So as producers, that's kind of that's the disconnect. You don't understand how sound works. Right? And you're like, "Yeah, I just want to make sizzling hot beats. That's all I want to do." Right? But what do you do when you sit down and make a beat? You start scrolling through presets, looking for a sound that sounds what you're looking for, which you won't find. You'll end up settling. Right? So none of your productions sound to the general public the way they sound in your head. You're incapable of doing that. It's easier for me to make the snare drum that I want than it is for me to find it in my gigantic side. I know how to build a snare drum out of white noise and triangle waves, right? And so some of that stuff you can teach yourself on your own once you understand the concepts of how those things work, right? So I just want to start today with 133. I want to start today with explaining to you what sound is and how sound works, because if you don't understand that, then the cart's in front, and most people don't, right? So let's just talk about sound for a second and what sound is. You hear things, right, consistently, and you listen to things. Those two things are, one's passive, one's not, right? But you're never really thinking about that. You're jumping over that step into, a lot of people don't understand the value of that. I understand it intimately because before I started any of this, as a young musician touring, I figured out I needed to make some money and I didn't want to work a normal job. So I started doing monitors for bands. And then I figured out frequency feedback, all that stuff. And I started to see things more globally and more zoomed out. Instead of hearing a guitar is one thing, I started to divide frequencies because I was constantly pulling stuff out of mixes. Right? And so that's what opened the gate for me. Sound is nothing more than the propagation of energy in a medium. That's all it is, right? You just have a hard time with that concept because you think you're not in a medium right now, right? You just think you're sitting in a chair and you're not in a medium. If you were underwater, you would be like, "I'm in a medium," right? But because you can't touch it and you can't perceive it, you think air is nothing. No, air is a medium just like water, right? So what's happening when you hear something is vibrations there's air particles just hanging there static doing nothing, spaced evenly, right? And then when you go, "Hey," the air pressure that comes out of you makes the air particles that are in front of your face slam into the ones that are that's what happens. And then you have this energy propagating through a medium. It radiates outward, and the frequency at which those disruptions happens determines what pitch it is, and the size of those disruptions determine the volume of it, and the shape of that disruption determines the tone. That's why if you have a flute play A440 and you have a trombone play A440 and you look at it in Pro Tools, they don't look the same. It's the same frequency of disruption, but they're different shapes. The shape determines how you're going to perceive that sound. Right? So you've got amplitude, you've got frequency, you've got, I want to call it shape. I don't really know what else to call it. Right? Those are the qualities of sound. And that disruption happens in the same fashion as it does in water. Air and water are not that different. The only difference between air and water is if you heat it, they come apart. The hydrogen molecules come right off. You can make it if you had a hydrogen. Don't try it. I don't know if you saw The Martian. It's very explosive. It's dangerous. Don't do that. But oxygen and water are not that different. If you drop a pebble in the water, what happens? You see ripples going outward, but you're just looking at the surface. That pebble disrupts the water all the way down to the bottom in a column. Right? And that column radiates outward until the resistance of the water overwhelms the energy of that disruption, and then it dissipates and it's gone. Same thing happens with sound. When you hear your neighbor's dog, that dog is air pressure is coming out of that dog's larynx, and it's pushing the particles in front of that dog, and they're pushing other particles and other particles and other particles, and then it comes through the wall and hits your eardrum. That's literally what's happening. Right? And so it's important to remember that, obviously, the sine wave is the basis of all sound. Let me share something with you real quick. A couple things. Share screen. Share this screen. Share. And share. You guys can see that now, right? Yes, no. I can no longer see the chat, so if you can see it, let me know. Somebody. Anybody. Everybody. Screen. Can you guys hear me? Anybody? I'm not sure you can.
Don't worry. We can see your screen.
Okay, and you can hear me. Okay, that's good. So here's the deal. You see a sine wave, and the sine wave is the building block of all sounds. Any sound known to man in the known universe can be made of sine waves, right? But what you don't realize is that a sine wave is not a line. You think it's a line, because you can't draw in 3 dimensions. The reality is sinusoidal means rotation around an axis. That's what that means. So that's not a line. That's a curve, or a coil rather, right? And so when you're looking at, just as an example, when you're looking at things in Pro Tools and it looks like this kind of triangular thing, it's really this. That's a 3-dimensional disruption. And the reality is that's a snapshot of it. Just like if I dropped a pebble in the ocean and I put my GoPro underneath it, and when it got in front of the frame, I took a picture and I could see the disruption of the water particles. That's what you're looking at in Pro Tools, right? And obviously it emanates outward in that shape until the resistance from the medium, which is the air particles, overwhelms the energy that remains, right?
Sorry, Jason, we can't hear the audio on your video.
Oh, you can't hear the audio?
No.
Okay, hold on. I'm glad you told me that. Give me one moment. I think when I think that's a.
If you want, you can send me the video. And
can I send you the link?
Yeah.
And then you're just going to upload it, but we can't watch it right now.
Let me see. It might only take a second.
Okay, hold on.
Just a couple minutes.
Okay, I'll send it to you, and then if you get to a point where you can do that, interrupt me.
Perfect.
Right.
No problem.
So that's just and there it is right there. That's the link. So This is a 3D representation of a sound wave. This is what you're looking at in Pro Tools. If you could take that triangular shaped thing and pull it off the screen and rotate it this way, that's what you would see, a coil coming to a point, right? And so that's what you got to be thinking about when you're dealing with sound. This is really important, and I'm going to send you this as well. Copy. Please. Everybody knows A440, right? Here that is here, right? But what about the rest of them? Every frequency has a corresponding number. I didn't realize that for years, for a long time, right? But now I have a lot of them. I know 261 is C, and also they're factors of one another. So 440 is A, but so is 220. And so is 110. If I go, look, here's the 220, look, here's the 110, look, here's the 55. Anytime somebody says a frequency to you, you should be thinking, what number is that? Anytime anybody says a number to you, you should be thinking, what letter is that? Because you know what brought it together for me. I had a friend that was a mastering engineer, and he was mastering a song in the key of C, and he went to the master EQ, and he bumped 261. And I was like, why are you doing that? And he was like, because I'm in C. And I was like, what's that got to do with anything? He's like, because that's the frequency of C. Every time they hit the chorus and they go C, it goes a little bit. And I was like, oh, mind blown. Right? And so that's what you got to understand about what's happening with sound before you start trying to manipulate it. Because this is going to be the basis of how you make string pads, right? How you do. I'm sorry to be poking around. I'm just looking for something that I want to show you. Here we go. That's how you're going to figure out how to make string sounds, how you're going to figure out how to make pads, how you're going to make kick drums, how you're going to be able to EQ things properly, right? And then once you've got that down, then you can start focusing on, okay, well, what about production techniques? The reality about that is, and I'm just going to tell you this now, do yourself a favor and make music for the market, right? Everybody, you got two choices. You can make music for the market, or you can make music for yourself. If you make music for the market has buyers, and those buyers are represented in the top 100, right? If you make music for yourself, you'll just have music. So, and there's no, it's not an enigma what it is that the market has an appetite for. All you have to do is look at the top 10, right? You go listen to the new Justin Bieber song, and you're like, oh, there's a pad that's in a #1 song. I'll make a pad like that. That demands the ability to make a pad. So now we're back to square one, right? And so that's why I'm telling you this, right? You serve the market. And then once you get market share, you can do what you want. But if you're making more, I guarantee you, if you make music at the tempos that #1 songs are at, about the subject matter that #1 songs are about, using the sounds and drum sounds that #1 songs are using, you will make #1 songs, right? You just have to be consistent about like checking the market for what, right? And so the misconception is, well, but I want to be original. Do you? Or do you want to be, I mean, what, that's like opening a restaurant and saying you want to be like, if you have to serve what people want, you can't open a restaurant that serves noodles and say, I have finally got my own noodle restaurant and I'm going to serve noodles with mini marshmallows, raw sardines, and gummy bears because that's what I like. And if you don't like it, you can eat somewhere else. Guess what? People will eat somewhere else, and then you'll go out of business. You have to serve the market if you want to be successful in the market, right? So, and the market, the good news is the market tells you what it wants. Whatever they're buying, that's what they want, right? So get your head wrapped around this. I want to show you in the next coming days, first of all, I mean, we talked about sound today, and that's just a basic overview of how it works and what it is. Now I got to show you a couple things about how you perceive it, how your ear works. And the reason why I'm going to show you how your ear works and how your brain works is because that's how a tape machine works. That's how Pro Tools works. And then once we do that, then you're on your way, right? So I'm hoping over the next 2 sessions, we can cover that well enough to get to a point where we start to get artistic, right? But concept over construct. And I see Jason Camilo there, which means my time is up. So I hope that was informative.
No, Jason, you're doing great, man. I'm just blown away, because it reminds me of the work that you do as a professor at Berklee with the students who are producers and engineers. You really need to get down to the science of what it is that you do, and that is a long journey. Because and I want you to keep going. I'm like jumping in because I'm like,
please.
We weren't able to get that other thing to play yet, but I want to stay here with you because so you're going through the idea of the concept. You want the folks that are interested in producing music to understand the concepts.
That's right.
Then as you're taking them forward and they understand how the sound is created, how you perceive it, how does that connect to the work that you do as a producer and as an engineer when you're working with like somebody in the studio? How do you that doesn't have an idea of what is actually happening technically? How do you get the music out of them? How do you make those things connect?
Because what I'm doing is I'm letting the music tell me what it is you're trying to do, right? So as soon as I hear you play me something, like I got this idea, as soon as I hear 2 bars of it, I'm like, oh, you're Pharrelling me. I know what you mean, right? He doesn't know he's Pharrelling me, right? He has no idea,
right?
Because it's like that scene in Tenacious D where the guy calls him and says, hey, if you guys write a new song, then we'll be glad to see you this week at the open mic. But if you don't come back. So again, if you don't have a new song, and then they labor all week trying to write a new song, and then they get excited because they thought they write a new song, and then the ice cream truck comes by and they realize that they wrote the ice cream truck song because it was in their subconscious mind.
Right, it's the earworm, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's what everybody's doing.
Okay.
But I've heard so much music that I can tell immediately where you got it. I know what you like. I know where you got it from, and then I just do diligence to that. If you're Pharrelling me, then I know I need to get out my 707. Those are the drums you want.
Got it.
And how do I know that? Because I know what you're doing, and I know what it's authentication of style.
So is that from you listening to so much music and like analyzing it?
As soon as I solo a guitar, as soon as I hear 2 bars of it, I'm like, oh, you're Brian Maying me. You're Queen me. It goes over there. That's too bright. It needs this. Because as soon as I hear it, I'm like, this record, that record, this record, that record, that solo, this record, this stuff. And I'm like, I know who you are. I know where you got it from. And then I just do that to it. And then they're like, that's perfect.
So it's like, kind of like when you're listening to songs, you've got this producer's mindset where you're constantly analyzing all the different sounds of the drums, the mic placement, the sound samples that are being used, the kinds of vocal approach or orchestration. Like you're doing the technical side, the arranging side, and you're figuring out how to capture it. That's
and sonically, like that's the wrong kick drum. How do I know that? Because here's where you got that. Like I've literally played songs for people who brought me a song, and I was like, "Here's what you're doing," and they were shocked. They were like, "Oh, I didn't even know I was ripping that off."
Well, I mean, it's not ripping it off when you're when you're copying the masters.
Energy is neither created or destroyed.
Yeah.
Right? It all comes from somewhere. It's the earworm back again, right? It's like nothing is new.
Wow.
No matter what you're doing, you got it. So you heard something, and a little piece of it got lodged in you, and maybe it got mixed with something else that you heard, and then it came out. But I can, if you Stevie Wonder me in the Donny Hathaway context with a band that plays like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, I hear all of it. I'm like, oh, you're doing this. He's doing that. You're doing this. You're doing this. And then I give you what you need. You need that. You do, and then that's a new thing. But no, it's not.
Wow. So this is interesting. So is there a big difference for you between what you're doing when you're producing an artist and when you're engineering something, or does that come together for you now? Because
I've always been, when I first started doing this, You had to make a decision. You couldn't be on both sides of the fence.
Okay.
If you were an engineer that was trying to produce, that would discredit you as an engineer. If you were a producer that was trying to engineer, that would discredit you as a producer. Now, the new rubric is a guy who's a hybrid. He's not a great engineer. He's probably more producer heavy than he is engineering heavy.
Okay.
Right? But he's a guy who can operate Pro Tools. He knows how to track. He can comp things and get it together. But if an engineer looks like it, he'll be like, why did you do it that way? Right?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But in the end, the clients love it because that guy's got beats as well.
Yeah. So they're writing. They're working. You're working with the artists to try to help them bring their musical.
I know engineers that get hired because the clients know they have beats.
Yeah. Okay.
And when I came up, if you try to play a beat for a client, they would fire you. I mean, if my boss found out about it, he would be like, "Did you try to play music for a client? Get out of here."
Right.
You don't do that. Now they're like, "Hey, you got any beats?" So first thing they say when they come in, I got a kid who's 19 years old, who's a returning Berklee student next semester,
Okay.
who is Future's lead engineer. Right? He's got the #1 record in the country right now. He did Carly's record. He's 19. He's a Berklee student. This returning semester is going to be his first semester at MP&E. He's going to win a Grammy Award this year. Right?
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And so as soon as Future comes in the studio, he's like, before he even puts his bag down, he's like, "You got any beats?"
Right. I got it.
And then he's like, "Of course."
Yeah.
Right. And so he's getting placements as well. So that's the new game. It's an engineer that is capable engineering-wise to get the job done enough, who can produce music and actually writes music well enough to, like, because they know the market, because they deal with these guys all the time. They know what they want. Right? But again, they're serving the market. They just know. I mean, if you're in Atlanta and you're doing trap, then you know trap or you don't know trap. Right?
Right.
If you're dealing with an artist off the street in another capacity that's just like, "Here's my work, I need you to help me with it," then you got to go back to what I was telling you before, which is more of a okay, let me listen to 2 bars of it and then I'll tell you, "Oh, you're Elvis Costello."
Yeah, and so
Right.
interesting. Like your ability, you have like this encyclopedic ear.
Yeah, because I've listened to so much music. This is what I tell everybody: like, you haven't heard enough music. That's your main problem. So when you hear something, it's new to you. You've never heard anything like that before, right? But if you listen to anything, I can hear it in your music. Maybe you can't because you haven't heard that record.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the first part, is like, you don't listen to enough music. You got to go to the Rolling Stone 500 greatest records of all time and listen to all of them. Right. and then once you do that, then the artist you identify with, and even some you don't, they pull that thread, because there's only one record from that artist on the top 500. They have 7 records. Go listen to all of them. Right. And then after a while, if you do that consistently, then it'll start happening. Then anything you hear, you're like, "Oh, that's just this."
So it's a different kind of ear training. It's different from oral training where you're sight singing and everything.
But it's not different. It's the same, because, it is different. But I mean, in the context of authentication of style and production, and because it doesn't take much. All it takes is you could do a trap song and everything could be perfect,
right,
but then the hi-hat's just the wrong pitch, and then that's not right, and you won't know why you don't like it, right? Because why? Because you're not referencing what the market has determined. Like, if you would listen to a Migos song before you made that beat, you would have done that.
Got it.
See what I'm saying?
Yep, absolutely. So tomorrow you're going to have your first your first clinic session, full clinic session with the audience here.
Right.
And I remember we were talking, you're really interested in sort of, you're getting to this today, just kind of teasing it up, but we all create music now sort of in our own project studios primarily. And you tell us what you're going to kind of dig into. It's about like organizing your space, right?
Well, yeah. So let me send you another document, because this is really important. And you guys are still seeing my screen, right?
No, we're not. No, we're
okay.
back.
So let me share one more time, and then let me stop. Share screen. Okay. Got it. Because I don't need the audio, and I want this screen. Share. So here's a link to there's a site called Pro Audio.
Yes, I know this.
And this site is really good. And they have this article on there that tells you about how to better treat your room. And it's very descriptive. I mean, what they're concerned about is, you know, we talked about seconds per second. There's 440 seconds per second if you're hearing an A. But what no one thinks about is that frequency of is a certain length, right? And if you're a room that has parallel walls or ceilings or floors, in which I'm fairly certain you are, unless you're recording in the vacuum of space, then those walls are going to be parallel. If that happens, those frequencies are going to feed back and they're going to be louder than other frequencies. So if that's a bass frequency, then what happens? If you're over on this side, then you're hearing more bass that is actually there. In which case, you're going to overcompensate by turning down bass. And that's why when you get in your friend's car to listen to it, there's no bass. If you're sitting here where there's a low, you won't hear enough bass or any at all. So you're going to turn up bass. So it's going to sound good in there, but then when you go somewhere else, it's going to be like, why is there so much bass? So we're trying to mitigate what you're hearing. It shows you, okay, here's a common room space. Where should you put the desk? Right? This is where everybody does it. That's the worst space. You should be here.
Yep. I did that right.
Yep.
Set up my
and then, right, it tells you how far apart the speakers should be, how far they should be from the wall.
Yep.
Right? Distance to the back wall, 2 feet, which means you should be able to walk back there. If your speakers are against the wall, if you can't walk back there, and I don't mean like this. I don't mean like that. I mean, you should be able to get up and walk back there without tripping over anything and have plenty of space.
Cool.
Right? This should be an equilateral triangle.
Cool.
Right? And you should be sitting 1/3 of the distance from one of these walls. Right? So, and your head should be that 1/3, because that way, this is the long wall. So that's a low frequency. So if you sit in the middle, then you're sitting right in the middle of the sidewalk where there's a no point. You won't hear the bass.
Got it.
So you got to be beyond that point, right? This is supposed to be all this is very, very slow. The bass traps, do them or don't do them.
Yep,
if you get that far, you're going to be good. Yep. Absorption, that helps too. Clouds help.
Yep.
If you can get a diffuser, that would be good. But the thing that is the most important about this site, I think, is there's sweeps from E1 to A3 here. So what you can do is, even if you can't treat the room, and another thing that I'll give you before I run out of time is this room mode calculator. You can put the link, you can measure your walls and hit enter, and it'll tell you where the problem frequencies are. And if you hover over them, you can hear them. You guys can't hear.
Interesting.
Right? And then what's really interesting is when you measure the walls and you put that information in there, and then you hover the mouse and then you move around the room. You'll find the spot where you can't hear that.
Got it.
Don't sit there.
Yeah.
Right?
So this information that you're going to dig into about getting your listening space set up is going to really help these folks who are creating music and they get into the production process to make better productions.
Well, because it's hard enough to get your kick drum sounds right, to get your pads to feel right. It's infinitely frustrating to get it sounding right in there, and then when you go somewhere else to play it for somebody, it doesn't sound the same way.
Got it.
Right? And that's what happens if you don't have a beat on it.
Yeah.
And just real quick, this is just a suite that runs from E1 to A3, which is not really all that interesting, but the reality is if you sit in your room, they're all the same volume. If it gets louder, that's a problem frequency.
And so you got to figure out how to fix your room.
Yeah, because you can figure out what note that is, and then you can look on the chart and see what frequency that is, and you're like, okay, I have way too much, and then you can go to the master EQ and pull that.
Oh.
And then you can come back and play this again. All the notes should be the same volume.
Got it.
Whatever you got to do to make that happen, that's what you do. And so you sit there with the keyboard and you go, and you're like, that's loud. What note is that? And you go, you find it. And you're like, what note is that? And you look on the chart. You're like, oh, that's 135. It's a B flat. Then you go to the EQ. You pull some, then you play it again. Wow. Right? Till you get it flat. And then once they're all the same volume, then it's flat in there. Whatever you're hearing, that's what you're going to hear if you go somewhere else.
This is incredible to dig into this. And Nadia, we are at the end of time for today. Oh my God!
I can't believe it. It was just, it's
so much information.
So Jason, wow, just mind-blowing, really.
Thank you.
Nadia,
Really,
tell us,
really
like,
enjoyed it.
Tip of iceberg.
yeah, what time tomorrow are we back with Mr. Stokes?
So tomorrow, our audience is very lucky to have Jason Stokes once again. And our appointment for tomorrow is 9 p.m. in Italy and 3 p.m. EST time. Quindi domani sera, ragazzi, ci vediamo nuovamente con Jason Stokes domani sera alle 21 e sarà su Zoom e io ovviamente sarò presente proprio durante tutta la trasmissione per darvi una mano con l'inglese e con l'italiano. So I'll be with you tomorrow, Rodney, to help out with Italian and English in Zoom. That way, if you need me, I'm here. And I really don't know what
You're
to
welcome,
say.
Laura.
Just such a great experience.
Yeah, I mean, this is, you know, ladies and gentlemen, you know, when you attend a Tour Music Fest session, you're going to get a ton of information. You get to meet people like Jason Stokes, Rodney Alejandro, Sydney Scott, you know, the other team that they bring in, and it is a lot. You're going to get a lot more than you probably ever expect. Take in as much as you can. You're going to be able to go back and watch the videos and kind of break it down. It's going to take a time. It's not as if you come to this session, you get all the things you need. It's a process. So thank you for setting this up. And Jason, thank you for, like, wow, the science.
Yeah, can I just say one more thing before I go away? Can I say one more thing?
Go for it.
And you're not gonna like this. If it doesn't sound good,
breaking up on you're breaking up on us, Jason.
Your audio is, yeah, it might be your audio.
Yeah, your audio's cracking up.
See that? Okay. Well, we tried.
But tomorrow we'll be back with Mr. Stokes, with Nadia Stachini, and the Tour Music Fest team, and this is awesome. We're gonna have a blast.
Isn't it? And just another quick,
so much fun.
Another quick note in Italian for our Italians. Non vi preoccupate, ragazzi, che entro domani, credo, verrà pubblicato il video della sessione di oggi con i sottotitoli in italiano, così potete riguardarlo. E mi raccomando, venite domani sera, che non vediamo l'ora di ascoltare nuovamente questo magnifico Jason Stokes. È stato veramente un onore averlo con noi. It's been an honor having you with us. It really has, Jason. Thank you, and we can't wait to see you tomorrow.
It's been a pleasure. See you guys tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you, sir. Have an awesome afternoon.
Ciao ragazzi. Buona serata a tutti e grazie a Berklee e a tutti.